Brother-in-law moved in rent-free, hijacks our home with his vendetta against Taylor Swift, and I'm ready to evict him. My partner and I are absolute Swifties, like, next level. We own every Taylor Swift vinyl, almost all of the cardigans, she dominates every playlist we create, and I even splurged to see her live on the Eras tour. Seriously, she has a song for every mood I ever have. Not long ago, my partner's brother found himself in a really rough spot. We'd moved about 6 months earlier to a very small 2-bedroom house, 12 hours away from our old stomping grounds. 4 months back, my partner's brother got kicked out of their family home. Let's just say their mom isn't exactly mother of the year. He moved in with his own partner, but that didn't last either. The place was rural, isolated from family, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find a job after nearly 2 months. As the missed car payments piled up, he lost his car, and then lost his place to stay. Since we'd all been friends for years, my partner and I stepped in, offering him our spare room just to help him get back on his feet. He arrived about 3 weeks ago with exactly $0 to his name, but he tackled his job search head on, landed a decent gig, and has helped out a lot around the house. We knew it would stretch our resources, and I was prepared for that adjustment, but I never expected everything to blow up over Taylor Swift. It started when her new album dropped. For whatever reason, my partner's brother has cranked up his hatred for Taylor to a level I didn't think was possible for someone he's never even met. Suddenly, I couldn't listen to Taylor in the car, play any of our records at home, watch an interview clip or even send my partner a TikTok that included her, without triggering him. It's not like I expect everyone to love her. Plenty of friends and family roll their eyes at my playlists and I'm fine with that, but he despises her with an intensity I just can't wrap my head around. The tiniest thing sets him off. When I do sneak in a handful of Taylor Swift songs, he stomps around, slams doors, mutters nasty things, and completely kills the mood. He's even stormed into my partner's workday, my partner works from home, to rant about her, or sends us ridiculous fake news articles just to rile us up. Tonight was the last straw. My partner and I were curled up on the couch, eating dinner and binging through the TikToks I'd sent him. 3 of them, just 3, had a Taylor Swift track as the audio. Suddenly, his brother comes downstairs for food. We don't always eat together, hangs around for about 5 minutes, and within 2 TikToks of hers, he's sighing, muttering under his breath, hurling his dinner straight into the trash, and slamming his utensils so hard, in the sink I jumped out of my skin. Then he stomped upstairs in a huff. We sat him down, not the first time, to explain that we respect his tastes, but he needs to respect ours too. We're not asking him to join our listening parties or anything, but we'd like to enjoy our favorite music in our own home, especially considering he's living here rent-free and we pay for absolutely everything, including his weed. I tried to explain, gently, that I've never told him I dislike his favorite artists, and despite quietly hating their music, I let him play their songs, go on about them, whatever he wants, out of respect for his happiness. He didn't care. He refuses to budge. Honestly, the constant negativity surrounding something I genuinely enjoy is wearing me down. I'm edgy, irritable, and I genuinely dread crossing paths with him. I've only lasted 3 weeks before telling my partner that maybe his brother doesn't belong here after all. At this point, I'm at the end of my rope. I have no idea what to do or how to fix this. 2 hot takes. Family, how am I supposed to coexist with this level of relentless negativity over just loving Taylor Swift? Update 1. With the exception of a few people, most of the feedback I got was incredibly affirming and gave me the kick I needed to pull my head out of my ass, man up, and face the situation head on. I realized it was finally time to deal with it directly. To add a bit of privacy, I deleted anything that might come back to me, especially after I noticed a few people I know IRL had started getting curious. Definitely my fault for bringing so many folks into our lives via the pod. When the timing felt right and everyone was in a good mood, my partner and I sat him down and put everything on the table. I told him plainly. His reactions to our music made us feel like we were tiptoeing around our own home and, honestly, like hostages. I confessed that resentment had started to fester, and we were seriously considering more drastic measures if nothing changed. I made it crystal clear that we were happy to help him, to a point, and we clarified exactly where that point was, but that help required a base level of mutual respect. I laid out the expectations in our home. No throwing things, no slamming things. No yucking anyone's yum. No yelling. We approached the conversation delicately but made sure to stand firm. To be fair, I also asked if he felt respected in the house, and whether there was anything deeper happening mentally or emotionally. That's when he opened up about some personal struggles he'd been facing, and together we worked out a game plan moving forward. To everyone who suspected there was something deeper going on, turns out you were right. He actually recognized and admitted his reactions were inappropriate and uncalled for. He apologized for the disrespect, told us he appreciated how hard we'd tried to make him understand the impact of his actions, and even acknowledged how mindful we'd been about playing her music. In fact, he admitted we'd gone overboard. He was honest, our requests were reasonable. We were only asking for something like 45 minutes a week of her music after a rough day, over dinner without him, private conversations not including him, or during activities that didn't involve him, like watching TikToks quietly on the couch as he walked by, and maybe a song here or there while running errands. He said we weren't listening too loudly, that he couldn't even hear it in his room or upstairs, and that we absolutely deserved to enjoy some of her music in the common spaces, just as we let him do with his music. We came to the mutual realization that his frustration had built up because his entire feed had been full of her lately, thanks to her recent album. Though, let's be honest, that's probably from him engaging with hate videos about her. We touched on this, but that's a conversation for another day. It was clear he'd been taking that irritation out on us. Ultimately, we agreed, sometimes it's just better to keep your mouth shut. There's nothing we could ever say to make him like her, and nothing he could ever say to make us stop. The lines were drawn, the points made, there was no need to keep beating a dead horse. It turns out, he'd been overexposing himself to the very thing he supposedly hated. Hearing him admit that this whole mess was 99% his fault, and telling us we hadn't been doing anything wrong, was a weight off my shoulders. I genuinely wasn't expecting that level of accountability. Now all three of us have headphones, we even gave him a pair of earbuds about a week ago, and we're all keeping those in heavy rotation for longer solo sessions, especially while doing chores or hanging out in common areas. We'll keep working on turning the garage into a hangout spot for the boys. He'll be paying rent, utilities, and groceries at an amount we agreed on, below market rate, starting with his first paycheck, and covering his own side expenses like weed, vapes, and gas. I also agreed to teach him basic budgeting and finance management, hoping to fast-tracking his journey to independence. I'm planning to surprise him with a few vinyls from his favorite artist for Christmas, though I might give them to him early, just so he feels we're on equal footing, not because he asked, but my partner and I thought it'd be a nice gesture. We've already got a handful of vinyls by artists we all love. Our lease renews in April, and until then, we'll have bi-weekly check-ins to air any concerns. When lease renewal comes around, we'll decide if he's still here, hopefully if things go well, or sooner if they don't. Right now, the mood in the house is better than ever. I was worried things would feel tense after that talk, but it went over remarkably well. We ended the conversation on the best possible note, reminding each other that we all love each other, want the best for everyone in the house, and, most importantly, that everyone deserves to feel happy and safe at home. Update 2. I just wanted to set the record straight on a few things because apparently there's a lot of speculation about who I am and how I feel about Taylor Swift. So, let me put it out there, am I a crazy Swiftie? I honestly don't think so, maybe I'm a little passionate, but definitely not out of touch with reality about her. I don't have any weird, parasocial connection to Taylor, and though I know there are fans out there who put her on a pedestal and act like she can do no wrong. That's definitely not me. She's made some choices and statements I don't agree with, some of which have honestly been pretty messed up, but I still appreciate her music and admit that the production for the Eras tour was phenomenal to see live. It's not like I worship every album, either. Sitting down to listen to an entire album front to back is actually rare for me. I go for the songs I like. And I'm not drowning in merch. Sure, I have a couple of cardigans, don't come for me, some of them are knockoffs, but honestly, I just love cardigans in general. Half my fall and winter closet is basically cardigans and plain tees, not just hers, that's just my style. Beyond that, I have 2 hoodies and a tee, plus one of each of her vinyls. I guess people have strong feelings about calling them vinyls, but whatever, that's what I say. If someone wants to spend a fortune on merch, that's their thing, not mine. I just can't justify dropping $100 for a jacket, even if it's cute and Taylor branded. So why do I like her? Well, yeah, I grew up with her. When Taylor's debut came out I was like 6 or 7, and it was the very first CD I ever owned. I can still remember jumping around my room in pajamas before school, blasting that thing. That music has always been something my mom and I bonded over, she even took me to the Eras tour. It's also something between me and my partner, ironically, he might listen to her more than I do. All around, the fan community has been pretty welcoming to me. There's nostalgia there, but also just, I like what I like, and that's all there is to it. I couldn't sit down and dissect the ways her work affects me, any more than I could explain why my favorite color is my favorite. Some of her stuff is too poppy, or too dramatic, or too focused on relationships, or just plain repetitive. I get it, not every song deserves the hype, and some honestly just aren't good. But it's fun, carefree music to throw on sometimes. That doesn't mean I'm listening to her obsessively. I don't play her every single day. I just wanted to enjoy her new album when it dropped, without being made to feel guilty about something I like. Getting that new album on vinyl at release was a big deal for me, usually, I get them secondhand later. Plus, the TikTok trends with the album launch were hilarious, and the anticipation was fun, especially when she appeared on Kelsey's podcast. So here's what my brother-in-law, Bill, actually experienced over 3 weeks. I listened to the new album start to finish once. Then maybe about 10 more songs, and I shared maybe 5 or 6 TikToks, not to my bill. I had about 3 conversations, each 15 to 20 minutes, about Taylor Swift, 2 with my partner, about the album, the podcast, some merch, and 1 with my mom, reminiscing about the tour and talking about the album. If you add all that together, about 128 minutes total or roughly 6 minutes a day, assuming long songs and every conversation went the full 20 minutes, which is generous. I have no idea where the rumors of 45 minutes a day came from. Was my Bill just messing with me? Maybe, but since we all aired things out, he's really turned it around, so I'm hopeful. In hindsight, I definitely put up with too much. The slamming doors, tossing stuff around, interrupting my partner's work, none of that should have happened in my house. But this was all so out of character for him, and I was totally caught off guard. That's not to excuse his behavior at all, but I've never dealt with something like this before, especially not from him. The podcast part? Sure, maybe talking about this stuff becomes free material, but I don't really mind. Everyone I talk to regularly knows about it. It's not like I'm super plugged into the internet, but my friends and I will shoot each other the craziest stories we find. I even got sent my own story a few times with wth.reddit. Text, if you can believe it. Maybe Bill was doing it to himself more than anyone. His Google searches went wild and he definitely spiraled a bit on some rabbit holes and conspiracies. Did anyone else know she's apparently the devil reincarnated? Because I didn't, but look, I've had my device recommend stuff I don't care about because of what someone else in my house watched. It's probably a mix of both. Was I a pushover? At first, yeah, absolutely. Bill has always been my rock. I mean, before he moved in, he helped me pack and move twice, got me dressed when my body flared up and I couldn't do it myself, proofread every terrifying text I've sent, defended me in family drama even when it hurt him, babysat my pets last minute without complaint. He's always had my back. I was terrified of losing the relationship we built for years. That's why the way he acted was such a shock. It was so out of character for him that I just froze. Am I helping too much? Maybe. But if he's treating me right, that's what matters. I don't mind teaching him personal finance or helping him with budgeting. Sure, he probably should know those things by now, but he grew up in a way where no one showed him this stuff. If no one ever takes the time to show you a good example, how are you supposed to learn? People act like showing kindness or being willing to help is some kind of weakness. But I truly think you have to show up for your people. I'd take being taken advantage of for being nice over being hardened any day. Life's too short to keep score over every little thing and not give from the heart. Should I have paid for everything as long as I did? No, that wasn't ideal. It did drain my resources a bit. I had fewer dates, put aside some fun money for less than 2 months. But as long as he treated me and my household with some respect, that was enough at the time. There's more to life than covering just the bare minimum for someone you care about. At the end of the day, I didn't dip into my savings. I could die tomorrow and none of this comes with me anyway. Am I still footing the bills? Nope. He's paid us rent, covers his own extras, and most recently, treated me and my partner out to breakfast, coffee, dinner, and even weed. It honestly feels like we're in a much better place. Are bi-weekly sit-downs too much? Maybe. I'll admit, I'm type A as hell and like things organized. But these meetings aren't just for venting or picking at each other. When we sit down, we chat about the upcoming weeks, concerts we want to catch, date nights, new restaurants popping up, seasonal markets we don't want to miss. We cover the run-of-the-mill too, bills, budget stuff, groceries, meal planning for things we want to cook together, any household essentials, and even talk about fun things like how we want to decorate the house when holidays roll around. But it's more than just logistics. We've all got different work schedules, our own routines, a million things going on. The sit-downs are our way of making sure we carve out deliberate time to connect and talk through whatever needs attention. Sometimes that's happy, sometimes it's practical, and sometimes, yeah, we do end up airing grievances. That's life together. When things with him came up, I knew listening to his feelings before drawing boundaries wasn't pandering. At least, I don't see it that way. If he was always like this, always crossing lines, maybe I'd feel different. Some people really are just jerks. But in this case, I could see how raw and vulnerable he was. He was in the middle of a mental health crisis, terrified to even admit he needed help. It changed how I saw the whole situation. It didn't mean what he did was okay, or that I'd just excuse away bad behavior. Not at all. If we hadn't stopped and figured out what was really happening, gotten him support, we would have been missing half the picture. His reasons don't excuse what hurt us, but understanding the why behind it helped me move forward. It's not justification. It's just reality. Update 3. He started therapy. He booked it himself after our last sit down, did the intake, and actually went, twice now. I only know because he came home from the first one quiet in that heavy, unspooling way and asked if we could hang in the kitchen and chop vegetables without talking. We ended up making pasta and just existing. Later, he told us straight out that part of his rage scrolling was the only thing he felt he could control when everything else was bottoming out, and he'd wrap Taylor up with everything else. Hearing him say it like that clicked a bunch of puzzle pieces in my head that I didn't even realize were still scattered. He muted every keyword connected to her on his socials, unfollowed the news rabbit holes, and, this honestly made me laugh, put a literal sticky note on his phone that says, "Keep scrolling." It's dorky, but it works for him. Work's been good to him too. His manager asked if he'd be willing to train on closing shifts and gave him a bump. We celebrated by buying a second-hand bar cart for the garage and painting it the ugliest shade of green you can imagine because he said it looked so bad it's actually good. He surprised us by hanging a little wooden plaque he found at the thrift store over the door that says "No yucking anyone's yum." It's cheesy. It made me tear up anyway. Then the karaoke thing happened. His coworker had a birthday at this hole-in-the-wall bar that always smells like onion rings and old carpet. He went, promising to be home early because we were doing a movie. Around 10 p.m., my phone lit up with a video from my partner of him on stage, mic in hand, grinning in this mischievous, borderline manic way I haven't seen since before life chewed him up. The DJ had a 2009-2014 block and his entire table dared him $20 to sing a song he hates. He picked Love Story because he knows the words by osmosis, his words. I watched him butcher the first verse, deadpan, then absolutely commit to the chorus. The whole bar sang it with him. By the second chorus, he wasn't making fun of it anymore. He texted me afterward, "Okay fine, I get why it's fun. Don't make a big thing." When he came home he tossed $20 on the counter and said, "Payment for emotional damages," and then asked if we could put a record on that wasn't tailored to clear the palate, which we did. He sat through both sides. No commentary. No stomping. Just normal. 2 days later, we found a cat. We were hauling storage bins out of the garage when a streak of soot shot out from under the shelving and made a beeline for him. It crawled straight up his hoodie and settled on his shoulder like it had paid rent for years. Skin and bones, grease-stained, one ear tipped. We took it to the vet, posted in the lost groups, did the whole due diligence. No chip, no match, and the vet said she was probably dumped. The universe put a cat on his shoulder and dared us to say no. He filled out the adoption paperwork without hesitating. He named her Karma. Not me. Not my partner. Him. He said, "Karma is a cat," with a little eye roll, and then immediately buried his face in her fur so we wouldn't see him smiling. She sleeps in his laundry basket and headbutts his phone when he doomscrolls, which is hilariously effective. He bought her a tiny purple collar and then asked me if purple was the right color or whatever, which I chose to interpret as personal growth. There was one hard moment in the middle of all this. His mom called. I was at the sink, and the tone in his voice changed the way it does when trauma walks in through the front door uninvited. He took it outside. I didn't mean to listen, but the windows were open and the night was dead quiet. She went on a tear about idol worship and bad influences and a bunch of stuff that had nothing to do with music and everything to do with control. I heard him say, calmly, "They took me in." "You didn't. Don't talk about them like that." He set a boundary. He didn't blow up. He didn't fold. He came back inside, put his phone face down on the counter, and asked if anyone wanted tea. I have never been prouder of a human being. The house has started to feel like a home again. We had our check-in and he showed up with a spreadsheet on his phone, color-coded, labeled, and completely his idea. He budgeted for rent, utilities, groceries, savings, therapy, and cat stuff like an absolute nerd. He paid early. He grabbed the grocery list off the fridge, added ingredients for a dinner he wanted to make for us, and then spent an entire evening trying to sear scallops in our terrible pan because he saw a chef do it on TikTok. They were rubbery. We ate every single one and told him they were perfect because he lit a candle and plated them like he was on TV. He laughed, rolled his eyes, and ordered us pizza anyway, and because apparently irony is the only language the universe speaks to our household, the first vinyl he asked me to help him find was a Taylor record. He was specific. Not the new one. The one with the Romeo song, which sent me to the used shop down the street to hunt for Fearless. We found a beat-up copy with a scratched sleeve and perfect play. He paid for it himself and put it on the turntable when we got home, then said, "Don't make this weird. It's homework." We listened to the whole thing. He asked questions about production and storytelling like someone who actually cared about the craft, which, to be fair, he does. His favorite artist is a lyric guy too. We took turns flipping the record and it was peaceful. Familiar. Like that morning light feeling where you realize the nightmare is over and you can breathe again. He did, however, draw a line in the silliest possible place. He told me if I ever put on the 10-minute version while he's cooking, he's canceling dinner out of principle. I promise not to booby-trap his risotto with heartbreak anthems. I'm not a monster. We didn't wait until Christmas for his gift. My partner and I gave him 2 vinyls from his favorite artist early, partly because his record crate looked like a sad single book on a huge shelf, partly because it felt right. He hugged us, made a joke about equal representation on the bar cart, and immediately put one on while Karma used my shoelaces as a chew toy in the middle of the living room like she pays the mortgage. I won't pretend everything is magically fixed forever. We still keep headphones close. We still keep an eye on how much we're all taking in online. Some days are more tender than others. But the house is soft again. There are candles burning and a cat snoring on a hoodie pile and a lopsided plaque over the garage that makes me smile every time I see it. Last night, after dinner, he tossed me his car keys and said, "You can play whatever you want," and I queued up one song, turned it down low, and watched him tap the steering wheel without thinking. He caught himself, realized what he was doing, and groaned. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. He was smiling. Update 4, Record Store Day snuck up on us and then took over the whole house like a holiday we forgot to plan for. We were eating leftovers at the counter and I mentioned offhand that the shop down the street was doing a special drop and that I'd probably pop by if the line wasn't insane. He rinsed his plate, stared at the sink for a second, and said, "What time do people start lining up?" In the same voice he uses when he's about to build furniture without the instructions. He set his alarm for 3:15 a.m. He made coffee in a thermos, stole my fluffiest socks, and left a note on the fridge that just said, for the house. I woke up at 6 to a picture in the group chat of him in a camp chair, hoodie up, karma hair all over him, sandwiched between a dad with a folding wagon and a teenage girl trading friendship bracelets like a tiny CEO. He sent, "Don't make this weird," and then followed it with a selfie wearing a bracelet that said "Karma is a cat," which nearly made me drop my phone. I swung by at 8 with breakfast sandwiches and hand warmers because it was that kind of morning. The line snaked around the block, pajamas under coats, lawn chairs, someone with a portable speaker low enough not to be annoying. He introduced me to the dad, who was there with his daughter for her first record store day. He said he remembered lining up for Pearl Jam in the 90s and had that I'm reliving something I love through my kid glow. The daughter had Sharpie hearts drawn on her knuckles and told me she'd made extra bracelets for anyone who looks like they need one. She handed one to him without even looking up from her bead box. It said "No yucking." I pointed at his chest and then at our garage plaque. He rolled his eyes like he hadn't been waiting to tell someone that story all morning. A local news van pulled up, because of course it did, and started doing little man on the street bits. He watched them inch closer like he was bracing for a dental appointment, then squared his shoulders when the mic landed under his chin. The reporter asked why he'd gotten there so early and he said, "I live with 2 people who love music and I like my house peaceful." He smiled, real and easy. "Also, I owe them. Also, I like standing in lines with nice people. Free bracelets don't hurt." It ran on the noon broadcast and, for the rest of the day, his phone lit up with coworkers sending the clip and asking if he was converting. He texted back, "Don't push it," and then asked me if I could record the segment because his grandma watches the local news at night. He came home with a bag held out like an offering. He didn't let me pay him back. He put the record on the counter and said, dead serious, "House rule, you get the first spin," and then took Karma off the turntable because she'd decided it was a new bed. The sleeve had that soft matte finish and it smelled like paper and ink and a tiny bit of dust. He sat on the floor against the couch, knees up, and listened. No commentary. No sighing. At one point he looked over at me and mouthed, "That hi-hat is nasty," like a person who hears things the way he scours lyrics. When it ended, he got up to flip it and Karma tried to help by whacking the tone arm, which was a heart attack in 3 seconds. He caught it, almost curated some extra crackle, he said, and I had to put my face in a pillow to muffle the noise I made. That night, his mom called again. He glanced at the screen, put it face down, and said, "I don't have it in me today." That was it. No spiraling. No pacing. He sent one text, "I can talk Thursday at 5 for 10 minutes. If it goes off the rails I'm hanging up." He set a timer in his phone for Thursday. He didn't ask if that was okay. He told us later she tried the old hits, "Idols, waste of money, you've changed." He said, "I have," out loud, and then, when the timer went off, said, "I'm done for today. We can try again next week." He came home with Chinese food and a new cat toy and the kind of quiet in his shoulders that reads like a win if you know him. Therapy gave him homework that turned into one of those nights you don't plan and end up talking about for years. His therapist asked him to write a letter to whatever he thinks keeps his thumb glued to outrage. He wrote it at the table, pen dug in so hard you could read it from the back side of the page. He asked if we could do a little fire and burn it. We dragged the grill into the driveway like teenagers who weren't supposed to, lit the cheap charcoal, and fed it one folded page at a time. He read a line out loud, "I don't owe you my time," and then stuffed the rest in and stepped back like he half expected it to explode. We roasted marshmallows on skewers we probably shouldn't have used, and Karma stalked the shadows like she was hunting moths she could invoice us for. Later, when I got ready for bed, he'd changed his lock screen. No more sticky note. Just a black background with white text that said, "Keep scrolling." There was a backslide moment, because of course there was. We were at the grocery store, fluorescent lights, a kid crying somewhere in cereal, when the 10-minute version came on. He froze in front of the pasta like someone had unplugged him. I watched him close his eyes and count with his fingers in his pocket, the way they taught him, then pivot to the spices and read every single label like he was studying for a test he really wanted to get a B on. He pushed the cart past me and, without making a big deal of it, said, "You take bread. I'll get produce," like the song was just a thing we were passing through on the way to Green Onions. 2 weekends later, he put his name on the open mic list at the Onion Ring Bar. He didn't tell us until we were parking because he said he'd chicken out if he had to watch us be excited. He went third. He didn't do Taylor. He did one of his favorite guys' songs first, hands a little shaky on the intro, voice tight for 2 lines, then warm. The room clapped for him like a living thing. He looked surprised, which killed me. He looked relieved, which did me in. The host asked if he wanted to do a second one and he smirked at us, the kind of look that says I'm about to jump in a cold lake on purpose. He said into the mic, "I'm going to try something I used to roast," and then he played clean like he understood it from the inside out. He stripped it down and laid it right there and the whole bar went quiet. I think the bartender leaned on the rail just to listen. I watched 3 separate dudes blink too fast. He finished and stared at his hands like they'd done something without asking him. He came back to the table, put his forehead on the sticky wood, and said, muffled, "Do not make this a thing." We didn't. But I will never forget the muscle memory of my partner's hand finding my knee under the table and squeezing. The bar posted a clip to their Instagram. It didn't explode or anything, but it drifted around our city like a paper airplane that knew where it was going. Someone in the comments wrote, maybe y'all should stop hating things and start feeling feelings, which, okay, fair. He scrolled through once, then put his phone face down and tucked it under Karma when we got home so he couldn't reach it without moving a cat. We had our check-in and he came with a new budget, therapy, rent, savings, plus a little line item labeled vinyl? If responsible. The question mark killed me. He'd booked an extra shift and wanted to use some of it to buy a cheap second-hand guitar to keep in the garage because the cat likes it when I play. He made that face again, teeny bit of caution, a lot of hope. We said yes, obviously, and then watched him scroll classifieds like he was on a dating app. He found a beater with stickers under the strings and a crack that had been glued back together and said, she's got bad decisions in her, like that was a compliment. It was. The garage is a real hangout now. The heinous green bar cart sits under the plaque and collects bottle caps and friendship bracelets and one purple collar Karma outgrew in 2 weeks. He strung lights along the rafters and thumbtacked the receipts for things he's proud of to the wall. First rent, first therapy copay, first vet visit where the doctor said Karma was a perfect weight, which he printed out like a certificate. He taught himself 3 chords that somehow go with a dozen songs and made me sit in a lawn chair while he played the world's most earnest medley and begged me not to cry. I did. He rolled his eyes and handed me a napkin that said tacos on it in Greece. Last Thursday, the record store called to say he'd won a raffle he didn't remember entering. 2 tickets to a symphony pop night doing Taylor's version. He walked in with the envelope and said, don't panic, I'm not proposing. He held the tickets out to me and said, take your mom if you want. Or make me go if you're trying to test my soul. I called my mom. She had a work thing she couldn't move. He sighed, very dramatically, and said, fine. I'll be your +1. But if there's confetti I'm wearing a hat. We went. He wore the stupid hat. The orchestra took Enchanted and made it sound like the inside of a snow globe. During Love Story, a teenage boy 2 rows ahead of us signed the lyrics to his friend and he watched it with this expression like he was learning a new language. On the way out, he handed his extra bracelet, the no yucking one, to a little kid whose dad was carrying him on his shoulders. The dad mouthed, thank you, and he shrugged like it was nothing. In the car, he stared out the window and said, too quiet, I didn't hate the music. I hated feeling left out. That's on me. Then, because balance is the universe's favorite party trick, he added, if you start doing themed outfits I'm moving out. We came home to find Karma had climbed onto the kitchen counter, discovered gravity, and taught the bar cart a lesson about weak ankles. 1 bottle broke. 1 friendship bracelet went down in a heroic tangle. He scooped her up and said, actions have consequences, while she did the limp noodle. Then he crouched and cleaned glass as carefully as I've ever seen anyone do anything. He rehung the plaque over the garage door when it fell, straighter than before. Today, he texted me from work, 3 words that would have sent me into orbit a month ago, song wreck? I sent him the original first draft of a bridge she never released, just to be a gremlin. Kidding. I sent him something small and clean and kind. He sent back, okay fine, and then, 10 minutes later, nasty hi-hat. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. When I got home, the cat had a new collar with a tiny charm that says Karma in purple. It looks exactly right.